Manila Bay, indeed, the heart of our country. But for all its generosity, it was a mother we took for granted, neglected, even abused, where entire regions flushed the byproducts of progress. In fact, a mere 100 milliliters of water taken from the bay is contaminated with fecal coliform bacteria in the millions, and in some areas, even billions, more than the acceptable limit, affecting the health of citizens, destroying our rich biodiversity, damaging our resource for the future. And so, quality of life faded like a receding wave, and our character as a nation was tested. Concerned citizens demanded action. The Supreme Court responded with a writ of mandamus, ordering 13 government agencies to clean up, rehabilitate, and restore the waters of Manila Bay to a quality that is fit for swimming and bathing. And finally, it met political will.
You start cleaning the Manila Bay, and they will start to clean it, whether they like it or not.
With the strength of our resolve, a tide of change came.
We will launch the biggest battle of them all, not against any invaders, but against decades of environmental abuse upon this jewel of our historical heritage, the Manila Bay.
The battle for Manila Bay, unlike the wars waged in it long ago. This time, we fight for it, against old ways, against a culture of neglect, against indifference, against our very selves. A battlefront that spans 190 kilometers of coastline, the countless arteries that lead to it, the cooperation of millions of people, and it needed a surge of spirit to resuscitate this beating heart of the nation. 13 mandamus agencies led the charge and implemented the existing DENR operational plan for the Manila Bay Coastal Strategy. 4 approaches to address the main sources of pollution. Liquid waste management, to ensure that water discharge into the bay complies with standards. Solid waste management, to reduce the solid waste ending up in Manila Bay. Informal settler families and illegal structures management, to permanently clear areas from encroaching houses and structures. Habitat and resources management, to protect the biodiversity of Manila Bay. And at the center of it all are partnerships and mechanisms to ensure the success of all 4 approaches. Eventually, an administrative order was issued by the President to bolster our wave of capabilities, with additional agencies and utility providers establishing the Manila Bay Task Force.
And I consider this as the greatest challenge of them all. I stand to you, Manila Bay, we will clean you.
And together, we went into action. The battle plan consisted of 3 phases, executed simultaneously, with the general aim of improving the water quality of Manila Bay, emphasizing key stretches that suffered the most pollution. And just several months into the battle, we delivered noteworthy results. In liquid waste management, the most important parameter, as it addresses the biggest pollution sources and indicates the success of our efforts. Thousands of establishments were inspected and over 1,000 were reprimanded for violations in their discharge liquid waste. And with the help of key judicial and investigative agencies, thorough investigations were carried out. Water quality in key river mouths and outfalls were monitored for coliform levels. And while almost half of them showed significant decrease in fecal coliform levels, from hundreds of millions mpn to mere millions, they are still a long way to go to meet DENR's strict standard of 100 mpn per 100 milliliters of water. Water quality was also monitored along the seaside and its bathing beaches, with certain areas showing decreased coliform levels from millions of mpn to mere hundreds of thousands. And certain bathing beaches have already passed our standard. The removal of silt may have caused some areas to register higher coliform levels, so we remain vigilant. More people were also finally connected to proper sewerage systems so that their liquid waste will go to treatment facilities before being discharged into the bay. And other intervention technologies were installed. In solid waste management, an environmental compliance audit was conducted. Hundreds of LGUs disposed of residual waste in approved disposal sites. And many of them established resource recovery facilities and systems. Looking forward to the future, more than 100 LGUs also complied with our 10-year solid waste management plan. More than 1 million kilos of solid wastes were collected from the waterways by the various government agencies involved. And containment technologies were installed. And at the barangay level, millions of kilos of solid waste were cleaned up in weekly efforts, with hundreds of other non-compliant barangays conforming after being issued show-cause orders. Waterways were declogged and cleared of thousands of cubic meters of silt and water hyacinths, utilizing floating dredgers to fast-track the operation, and achieving more than half of the collection target already. In the management of informal settler families and illegal structures, hundreds of kilometers of easement areas need to be cleared. Though it will affect tens of thousands of families, many of these areas are also where the highest coliform levels were recorded, exposing these same families to health risks. Relocation has started for 5 priority areas: Estero de San Antonio Abad, Santo Niño Multinational Riverside, Estero de Magdalena, Isla Puting Bato, and Baseco, where hundreds have already moved into 2 of our resettlement areas. In habitat and ecosystems management, we have laid the foundations to the sustainability of our efforts. Ecotourism sites were established to serve as additional sanctuaries, while existing biodiversity areas were further protected and conserved. Fisheries and maritime laws were strictly enforced, with more than 100 violators apprehended. To support all these, strategic communication, education, and mobilization efforts were conducted. Fora and lectures were held to educate thousands of people from all sectors. And even more were reached through informational materials freely distributed and posted. But the journey, though promising, is never easy.
There are many challenges to be encountered, some of which are first identifying the sources of pollution. But because of what we had accomplished in Boracay, we were pleasantly surprised at the cooperation and support that we've got from the different government agencies, from the local government units, and from the private sector. The major job that we have to do is really behavioral change. And we are doing this by strictly enforcing the law now. We have deployed many Estero Rangers in the different waterways in the Metro Manila, in the National Capital Region, not only to enforce the law and to catch violators, but also to educate the communities on what to do, how to take care of the waterways within the area, so that they have an ownership of whatever we accomplish in relation to the rehabilitation of Manila Bay. So dito po, tulong-tulong po tayo to rehabilitate Manila Bay.
Manila Bay has taught us that our natural resources can no longer be ignored, and that its bounty is for everyone to enjoy.